Hi guys, today we are going to start on drawing a 1-point perspective room. Now for this room, we need our paper, a pencil, and then you will need a ruler or something that has a straight edge and is kind of longer, like a ruler. Okay, we don't need to do a ton of measuring. The main part of this assignment is to be able to work with a straight edge. We'll do a couple of measurements towards the beginning, but as long as you can get relatively close, it's not a deal breaker. Okay, so you might use something like a box that has a nice straight edge. You might use, I have this basket here that would work. So it has a nice straight edge and it's long enough for me to use, right? And so long enough means that it's about the size of your paper, okay? As long as your paper is, right? You might even have like a piece of cardboard that has a super straight edge, something along those lines. Okay, I'm going to use my ruler so that you can see exactly what I am drawing and so that it makes perfect sense to you. And the first thing I'm going to do is draw a rectangle that is about 3 by 4 inches. Okay, so that means 3 inches on one side, 4 inches on the other. Okay, and so I want to make sure that my short side is the same as my paper here. So this side's going to be shorter, this side's going to be longer. Okay, and so what I want to do is I'm going to kind of measure across here. And your paper is going to be 9 inches. Mine is kind of a weird number just because I grabbed a random piece. But I'm going to find about roughly where the middle is here. And I'm going to say, actually, let's do it this way first. Okay, so I'm going to, same thing again, find the middle. Okay, and I'm lining up my paper, my ruler with the edge of the paper here to make sure that my line going across here is nice and straight. Okay, and I can double check over here. Okay, and so I'm kind of finding the center here. So I'm going to move this up a little bit. Move this in. Okay, and I'm going to have 4 inches going across here. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to bring this in just a little. I'm going to say maybe like right about here, and I'm going to go about 4 inches. So I have, and I'm starting at a weird place on mine. Actually, we'll just start here. So I'm going to go to here, okay, for 4 inches. Okay, and then I'm going to come up here on this side, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line up this here with this edge now, since I have a line to line it up with. Make sure this is nice and straight, and then I'm going to draw 3 inches, okay? So again, mine is kind of at a weird spot. If you need to move yours, that's fine, but I want to make sure that my line here is nice and straight, and so I am just going to deal with a weird spot. Okay, so here to here would be 1, 2, 3 inches right here. Okay, so I'm going to draw my line here, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side over here to finish this box right here. Okay, so I'm lining this up with the very edge. And honestly, because I already have, let's see, this one looks a little bit different. So I have, this is a little bit more than 3, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go a little bit up here. So that should be about right. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this one over here, and I'm going to line up those 2 lines. So I'm going to make sure my paper and my ruler line up. Okay, now on this, I want to make sure that I am drawing nice straight lines. I don't want to just randomly draw a rectangle here because when you're drawing something that's built with rulers to begin with, right? So like an architect drawing this room or the construction workers, they're going to be using rulers and levels and different types of measures to make sure everything's nice and straight. Okay, and if you're trying to show that as an artist, we want to use rulers for that as well. Okay, so please make sure that you're using something that's nice and straight. Please don't just draw your own random rectangle. Okay, now mine is not perfectly in the middle, right? You can see it's a little bit lower here and here. That's totally fine. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the corners here with my ruler or my straight edge, and I'm just going to draw a soft line, and this is going to be erased. So I want to make sure it's nice and soft like that, and I'm going from corner to corner. Now, if you guys will recall, one of the tricks that we learned when using a ruler is to line up and check the corners twice. okay? Because if you move one side, it moves the other. So we want to check the corners twice, and then I'm going to spread my fingers apart here so that I'm pressing nice and hard on my ruler, and then my pencil, if I hold from the end here, and I go nice and lightly here, it doesn't move my ruler over, right? So sometimes if you're using your pencil and your ruler and your pencil's pressing too hard, it will move your ruler over while you're trying to draw a line. And that's where you get the people who say, I can't even draw a straight line with a ruler. It's because they don't know how to use a ruler. So I have this box with a square, or sorry, I have a box with an X in the middle of it, right? It kind of looks like an envelope. And in the very center here, I'm going to draw a little dot, okay? Now, one of the things that I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to erase these little lines that I just made here, right? And remember, if you did nice light lines, then chances are it is super easy for you to erase. Okay, so I'm getting rid of these here. Just like this, okay? Sorry, my lights timed out because they're all about, you know, saving that energy. Okay, so I have this here. Okay, now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to do some more lining up. So that means I need to double check my places here. Okay, so I'm going to scoot us over here and I'm going to line up my ruler here with the dot. Okay, and the corner of my paper, not the corner of my paper, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I'm going to line up with my dot and this line here. Okay, so I'm following kind of the line that I already had that I just erased, okay? And this is gonna go to the edge of your paper. Now, chances are, and that's a really big chance, you're not gonna have your ruler go to the very corner, which is totally fine. Not at all a big deal, okay? It's going to go off corner a little bit, and I actually think that makes these drawings look a little bit more interesting and a little bit more realistic, okay? So I have it lined up with the very point of the corner, and I have it with the edge of the paper. And of course my little dot right here. And so I'm just gonna draw a nice straight line, and I'm actually gonna scoot mine down just a tiny bit here so I can make sure my pencil fits there. Yep, and I'm gonna draw nice and light, and it goes off the page here. So I went from where my box is here, but I made sure that my corner of my box and my dot were lined up. Okay, so now you can see this here, and it doesn't go to the exact corner of my page, but again, not a big deal. That's not what I'm concerned about. I want to make sure that this line here is lined up with the dot in the center. Everything goes back to this dot, okay? That's the whole point of perspective, okay? This dot right here, so in future reference, is called the vanishing point. So if this were a road that we were drawing, at some point, everything kind of just starts to vanish because it's so far away, and that's the point where it vanishes. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing, working my way around. So I'm going to do this corner here. Okay, so I'm lining up with my dot, my vanishing point, the corner of my square. Okay, lining this up here, just like that. Okay, and I want to double check, okay, my dot looks good, okay, my corner looks good. And then just from the corner of the square, not from the dot, but from the corner, I'm going to draw a line that comes straight out here, just like this. Okay, and again, do you see how this one doesn't hit that corner? Totally fine. Okay, totally fine. And it's more likely to happen when you're drawing this on a rectangular piece of paper than a square piece of paper, just because the proportions are different. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this for my other two sides, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have my lines here, and it ended up that one of them did going to my corner. Right, that's just how it worked, but that's because I was lining up my vanishing point with each of these corners on the square and then making sure that I went all the way to the edge of the paper no matter where it hit. Now, if you'll notice, each of these sections looks different, right? It's a different size. I mean, they're all trapezoids, but they're all different sizes. One of the things that I want to do for this, since I am drawing a room, I'm going to pick the best side to draw on. Okay, and it looks like this one is going to be the best side. So I'm going to turn this around here, okay? And this right here is going to be my floor area, right? And I'm going to have lots of things touching my floor. So I'll have furniture, etc. And so I want to make sure that I am creating I'm making sure that I'm using the space most wisely, right? Because if I have it turned upside down here, I have like a really big ceiling and it just kind of looks like a weird picture. Okay, especially because usually if you see a picture of a room, the focus is on the things that are on the bottom half of the room, not so much the top half. Okay, so you guys can see I have a floor here, I have walls here, and then I have my ceiling up here. Okay, everything that we draw is going to go back to this dot right here. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to think about how things work in 1-point perspective. If I were to look at a cube, okay, a cube has faces to it, right? You learn this in geometry. So you have sides that look like squares when you look at them directly. Okay, if you have a cube where it's at a slightly different angle, sometimes those squares, instead of looking like perfect squares, might look like a polygon or a quadrilateral. I don't know exactly. A rhombus? Is that the one where it's kind of like a diamond shape? Okay, so that's what it's going to kind of look like here, depending upon what we're doing. So the side of whatever's facing us, whatever piece of furniture, the side that is actually facing us is going to be perfectly angled with the square edges. So it's going to have the 90 degrees. The things that are not facing us are going to tilt towards this. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with drawing a bed in this room, right? And we'll say that this is a bedroom. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm drawing on this wall here, but I need to make sure that it touches the floor down here. If it doesn't touch down here, so that means if it doesn't cross the line and come down here, then it's not touching the floor and it looks like it's floating, right? So you'll end up with like a weird floating bed, or sometimes it won't even look like it's three-dimensional because it's at such a weird angle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this a little bit and I'm going to make a line here. So I'm going to angle this nice and straight. Okay, and I'm just going to make a straight line that touches close, that goes just past my line right here. Okay, because this is the floor and I want my bed to be against the wall, right? So if you think about your bed at home and it's against the wall, it's touching the floor, but it's very close to the wall. So I'm not going to go very far, maybe right about here. So, and again, this thing is, we're just kind of looking at proportions. So there's not really any specific number measurements that we need to do for this part. Okay, I'm just going to kind of draw a line, maybe here. We'll see how we like that. Okay, and I'm going to, so I have this line right here, and I'm going to draw a line coming across. Okay, so I'm basically drawing this bed as if angles didn't really matter right now, and I'm drawing just one side of the bed. Okay, so I'm going to bring this out here a little bit. Okay, so I have kind of a little foot right here. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this is going to go up this direction, and again, I want to use my ruler. Okay, I think first I'm going to add a line going across here, just like that. Okay, I'm going to bring, actually, I'm going to leave this, I'm going to erase this one right here. Sorry, I had to decide my plan. Okay, so I have this here. I'm going to draw the bottom part of the bed. So this is kind of like the leg of the bed that holds it up. And I'm going to draw the mattress here. Okay, so if my bed comes up about maybe this far off the ground. Okay, and I'm going to measure, I don't want to go too far out here, right? Because you want some bed to walk around, or some room to walk around your bed inside your room. Okay, and so I'm just going to draw from this line, just kind of lightly, because I'll probably erase parts of it, kind of out here. And I'm looking at my vanishing point here, and I might go just a little bit past that. Okay, so it looks like this so far. Okay, now I'm going to make sure I have this nice straight line going up here, and I'm going to stop where that part, where this line here goes. Okay, so I'm kind of bringing this up here. Ooh, I was a little bit too close. And my ruler has a weird dent in it, so. Okay, so this is what I have so far. I have this little stick, I have this line, I have this line that comes across here. Okay, now the side of your mattress, of course, is a rectangle. So I'm going to draw the top of my rectangle here. Okay, and so I'm just going straight across. Okay, and then I'm gonna bring this line here, and I wanna make sure this is nice and straight too. Okay, and again, I'm doing this all lightly, that way I can go back and erase anything that I hate later. Because, you know, sometimes you just make stuff and you're like, wow, that looks weird. Okay, so this is what I have so far. So you can see my bed's coming out of this side here. I don't have anything to hold it up over on this side, so I'm gonna add that there, and I have this coming up here. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and draw from the edge of my bed here, like this. I'm gonna go straight down this way. I'm gonna add another line to that, about the same thickness here, like that. Okay, and then I want to make sure that they're hitting the same point on the floor, because that's going to make the most sense, of course. So I'm going to line up this here with this one. And then I'll just draw a little line here. Okay, so I can erase these extra lines that I don't need on this side. Okay, so far I have this side of my bed. Okay, so this, we can't really see the top of the bed, the part that you lay on, right? This is just the side to begin with. Okay, and right now it doesn't have a lot of personality to it. We'll worry about that stuff later. Okay, but the main thing is that it is touching the floor, right? And then we're gonna start drawing the top part of the bed. Okay, so this is the part where we get angular. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start at this point right here on my bed, and I'm just going to take this point and I'm going to line it up with this dot right here. So this little corner right here, I'm lining up with this and using my ruler. Now, for this, I don't want to draw all the way to my dot unless I absolutely need to, but chances are that's not really going to happen. Okay, I'm just going to draw it part of the way. So I'm lining up here. I'm checking my dot, I'm checking the corner that I'm drawing from, and I don't even want to go to this line right here because that's too far. That's like a room-sized bed. Okay, and so I'm going to say maybe it kind of goes about this far, and then I can decide later if I want to make it a little bit smaller. But I'm going to draw from about here all the way down to that corner, and so whenever I move it, I have this shape here. Okay, do you guys see how this bed is kind of starting to take form? Okay, it doesn't really help that we can see the wall through it right now, but we'll get rid of that later. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with this corner of the bed. Okay, so I'm going to start with this corner right here on that box that I have, and I'm going to line it up with my vanishing point every single time. Okay, so I'm lining it up here, just like that. Okay, and I have my line here, and I'm just going to draw a nice light line, and I don't really know where I'm going yet. I don't want to go all the way, but I'm going just far enough that I can bring this over and erase it whenever I'm ready for that point. Okay, so I have this here. Now, this line that I need to close it is going to be nice and flat. The reason why is because we want to think about things in parallel pairs. Okay, so if I'm thinking about a bed, right, it's a rectangular shape. I have two sides that go this way. I have two sides that go this way. Okay, when you're working in perspective and you have the weird angles, you still have the kind of the same idea. So if this line right here is perfectly straight, right, and that's the side of the bed, and the other side of the bed would be parallel to it, this line here is also going to be parallel. Okay, these lines, we know that if we were looking at it head on, it would be parallel, okay? But since they're at an angle and they're flat and kind of working away from us, they're both angling towards this point. But the thing that helps us to know is that they both angle, okay? So it's not like this one's going to angle and this one's going to be straight for any reason. They're both going to angle, and then these sides here are going to be straight, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my, yeah, I think that looks good. I'm gonna make sure that my ruler is nice and straight with my paper here. Okay, and again, you can line up the edge of the ruler with your paper if you need to. Okay, and I'm just going to draw a line going straight across here from those 2 points. Okay. Do you guys see how it's starting to form into a bed right? So if I were to erase this line right here and this line, it would start to look like a bed. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do that really quick so you guys can visualize it a little bit better. Okay, so all that I did while I was gone away for a second was just erase the line that was behind my bed. So I erased this line right here and this line right here because I know that my bed is not see-through or invisible, right? And so now it's starting to look like a bed. So this is the side of the bed, right? This is the top of the bed. This is the part that you actually lay on, okay? And we can't really see the other side because it's away from us. And I'm gonna finish this headboard that I have up here, right? So I could have the headboard going in a variety of different ways. So I could bring this over here to the side, which actually I think I should bring that up a little bit. I think I'm gonna bring this over this way just a tiny bit. I'm gonna widen that up. Okay, so again, I'm still on the floor, not on the wall. But I'm gonna bring this up here. Yeah, because I wanted that line right there. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this up here a little bit, and I'm gonna have this one going straight across here. Okay, so that's the side of my headboard. You can see it coming out of the wall. And then this angle, what do we do with this angle, guys? Well, it's going to be pointing towards my vanishing point. Okay, now you might end up at some point, I'm saying point a lot, you might end up with a line that does go straight to that, where it looks like it's perfectly parallel like this. Okay, and that's okay. That just means that this here is about eye line. Okay, it's just that not every line is going to work out that way. So if I draw this here, I'm going to angle to this corner here, the outside corner of my rectangle, and I'm going to make sure my dot here is nice and lined up. Okay, and I'm actually going to put this above so it's easier for me to see. Okay, so I have those lined up, and then I'm going to draw this line right about here. And again, it's always nice to kind of over draw your line a little bit nice and lightly. That way you can erase it, because it's really annoying to like draw your line, draw this other line, and then come back and be like, oh no, that's wrong. I need to make it longer. Okay. So I have this line right here. And then the last thing that I have to do is connect from this here straight up here. Okay. So from this little corner that I have, and it's kind of hard to tell exactly, but I'm going to be super careful. And I'm going to draw from here going straight up. Okay, so now it looks like I have my bed here. Okay, and I am going to erase this. Well, let's make this a little bit thinner. I don't want to fully erase it. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so I have this little line down here that shows the side of my headboard here. You could make it a little bit thicker. One of the things I do want to make sure, though, is that I have an angle on this side too. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this angle here. So I'm going to have this point. It's going to meet up with my vanishing point like this. Just like that. Okay, and my line is a little bit on the longer side, which is fine because I can always erase what I don't want. Then I'm going to make sure this line here is nice and straight. And I'm only drawing up to where my mattress starts. Okay, so I'm going to erase this little bit right here. I'm going to erase the lines going through the bed. That way it looks like it's where it's supposed to be. Okay, and then so if you guys look up close here, you guys can see that this now looks three-dimensional, right? So this little rectangle here is the side that's facing me. This little piece here is the side that's facing the opposite direction. It's facing over here. Okay, that's why it's at an angle. Okay, so this is what it looks like to draw a bed. Now, of course, if you wanted to add things like a comforter, you could bring this down here a little bit. Maybe you have a shorter bed, maybe you have a taller bed, who knows? Maybe you have some pillows on here, maybe you have a comforter, something like that. Okay, if you were going to draw pillows on a bed, actually we'll do that in a later video. Okay, let's move on. So let's go ahead and add on some things to a couple of other things here. Okay, So if I have a window on this side here, on this wall right over here, okay, I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to think about my parallel pairs, okay, and I'm going to draw that accordingly. So I'm going to, actually, I think what I'm going to do instead of a window here, we'll do a window in a little bit. But what I'm going to do here is going to be a piece of art, right? So maybe it's like a canvas, okay? And so if I'm looking at a canvas at an angle, okay, it comes out from the wall, right? It's not totally flat against the wall. So I need to make sure that I have a side shape right here, kind of like I do here, to show that it's not attached to the wall and coming out. Or sorry, that it is coming out of the wall a little bit, okay? It's not totally flat like a poster. A poster, you wouldn't have to do the side part, but I wanna show you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna figure out about where my window or my picture is going to start, I'm sorry. And I'm just going to draw a really small rectangle here, okay? So it's going to be kind of long. So I'm gonna say maybe like right here, like that, okay? I'm gonna bring this back a teeny tiny bit. So it goes here, right? And then I can draw a nice little straight line down here, going across this way and this way. So going perfectly straight across. So I've drawn a rectangle here. It's very, very thin because it's just the side of a canvas, right? Or maybe it's the side of like a picture frame or something along those lines. Okay, but it's really, really tall and thin. Okay, then I'm going to work on adding on the top and bottom of the picture, right? So if this is nice and straight, the other side here is going to be nice and straight, which we'll add afterwards. But the top and bottom part are going to meet at this vanishing point. Okay, of course, I don't want to go off the wall into the other one. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose from the right side of the rectangle, like this. And I'm going to draw a nice little line going out here. And I'm going to say maybe about there. And then this piece is going to line up with the corner of my rectangle and the vanishing point again. So everything goes back to the vanishing point. It's very, very important. Don't just pick random line or random angles. It always goes back to the vanishing. Whoops. That's why they call it 1 point perspective, not any point perspective. Okay, and so I've drawn a line that goes and angles down towards that. Now I'm going to come back over here and I'm just going to draw a perfectly straight line because this line here on this side is perfectly straight. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that my paper is nice and lined up. And I'm just going to draw a straight line here. So now you can see I have a picture. The top and bottom both angled back to my vanishing point. The sides are both nice, perfectly straight lines. Okay, and then it looks like it's coming out of the wall a little bit, right? It looks like it's attached to the wall instead of being, carved into the wall or perfectly flat against the wall. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add on a something to our floor here. Okay, and I think that we're going to draw a rug. So again, this is pretty easy. I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, so if I'm drawing something on my floor, right, such as a rug, okay, the rug is going to be nice and flat against my floor. Okay, so I'm not really going to have the side of the rug like I do with the side of the picture here. Okay, but it's going to be, everything else is going to be the same. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about where I want my rug to be. And maybe I want my rug to kind of come under part of my bed here, and maybe I want it to go over here. Maybe. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw a straight line. Okay, so a straight line that is perfectly horizontal. Okay, because remember, if we have a weird angle, then it throws everything off. So I have a nice straight line here. And like I said, I'm going to say maybe it goes about here and then kind of angles and stops right about here. Okay, so that's about where my rug is going to go. Now I'm going to draw a line from this point right here, this where my first line stopped, back to my vanishing point. Now, of course, I don't have to draw through my bed because the rug goes under the bed. So whatever the angle is for my line, I'm going to stop once I hit where the bed is at. Okay, so I'm going to draw this here. I'm going to line it up. Okay, so it's nice and lined up here, and then I'm drawing from the bed to that the end of the line. Okay, so you can see that it's kind of starting to turn into a rug. And I'm going to do the same thing from here. Now for this one, it doesn't look like it's going to intercept the bed, and so I'm going to draw it as far back as I want to, and I think I'm going to stop right about here because I feel like it's weird if it goes all the way to the wall. Okay, so your room on your final project might end up having something like that. Okay, so I have this here like this, and I'm just going to draw. I feel like that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to draw that right there. And then, actually, I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. Okay, so then I'm going to bring this back this way with a straight line, a perfectly straight line. And I'm going to erase that little tail that I have. Okay, so now it looks like I have a rug sitting on top of my floor. Now, if you wanted your floor here to be wood floor, okay, what you could do, and I'll show you just a little quick piece of that, is you would think about how far apart your wood planks are, because you don't want them to be like weird sizes, okay? But you would line up, so maybe you have one that starts here, and you're gonna line it up with the edge of your paper and your vanishing point here like this, okay? And so I'm gonna draw this line here, and I'm gonna go all the way across like this, okay? Then I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to move over how much I think it should be, and then I'm going to draw my line here, going to the vanishing point. Just like that. Okay, and then so I would continue on. So maybe this looks like it's about the right distance compared to these down here. Okay, and then I'm going to line it up with my vanishing point and draw a line. And then you can see here, the ones further away are skinnier looking, because whenever things are flat and they're going away from us, they angle to a smaller point. Okay, so I could do the same thing here. I would just keep going, right? So if you choose to have a wooden floor on the floor of your room, you want to make sure that you go all the way. I'm just going to do a partial so we can move on. Okay, so maybe this one goes like right about here. Gotta double check that point. Right, and then this one, it's right about here. And so I'm just going to draw under the rug like that, right? And then it continues on. Now, the best way to make this part here look like wood flooring is that you, of course, have to have those little breaks in it, right? Because it's not only one long piece of wood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to make this go perfectly straight. And I don't want to draw a straight line because then it'll look more like tile. What I'll do though is I'll kind of intermittently, so I might do this one, and then let's see, so 1, 2, 3, and then this one I might do, right? And then maybe this one over here has it, right? And then maybe I move this one down here, okay? And then maybe I start with this second one here, and then maybe this one right here, kind of like that, right? And then maybe I have, if I come down here, little ways, maybe this piece has, and then this piece has it. This one looks weird. I have this one that doesn't have any breaks in it. I think I'm going to put a break right up here. So I'm going to go perfectly straight across. I'm going to do one right here, and then maybe like one in the middle. So it's on that same stripe, and I'm going straight across. And then it looks like wood flooring. It has those little planks in there. Do you guys see that? Okay, so this is how you work on flooring. This is how you add a picture or something to the side wall. If you want to add something back here, guess what? All of these lines here are perfectly straight, so your lines on this back wall are also going to be perfectly straight if it's on the wall. So if it were like a door, a window, a picture, a poster, anything of that, it would be perfectly straight with the lines here. If you look at the wall on this side, okay, notice that this line here is straight, this line here is straight, This line here is angled, right? The top and bottom lines are angled. So your top and bottom line here is going to angle if it's on the wall itself, okay? Technically, this is not attached to the wall, but the part that it would be kind of flat against the wall in real life follows the same angles, right? So they all angle back to that vanishing point. Okay, so this is how you can add some flooring or a rug. This is how we add a bed. This is how we add this picture here. If we wanted a window on the back wall, again, we would just have a straight, and maybe my window's in the very middle. And so we would just have straight lines going straight across like this, but only on the very back wall. Okay, so maybe, I don't know, kind of just making this up. Right, so maybe it goes like this, and then this one kind of goes along this way. Something like that, right? And then I could finish drawing that in there with those lines, or maybe I have curtains instead. Okay, so I could have my window there. Okay, and then if you have something on the ceiling, it follows the same things, right? So if you have one of those fluorescent lights, kind of like we have at school, you might have that same angle like you do with this down here. If you have like a chandelier or something, it might be coming directly out of the ceiling. So we might have an oval shape here like this, and it might come straight down here like this here, and then maybe it kind of comes and follows this same angle here like that, and then maybe you have like a, I don't know, sometimes they have like it's where it's like a straight piece of metal instead of like a chain, and then maybe it shows like this, right? And then if it's a circle from below, but the side view would be an oval, it might look something kind of like this, right? So you can see that line right there. I don't know, maybe there's like a light bulb in there, right? So I have a light, I've got a piece of furniture, I've got some stuff on my walls, and I have the flooring here. Okay, so this is just for our practice one to start off with. Okay, so this is all you need for this one. I will be making some demos that show a little bit more in depth and show you how to do a couple of different types of things on our paper that we have. Okay, so this is just to get started with. I am going to go ahead and add in some lines, right? Something like that, right, to make it look a little bit more windowy. Okay, and of course my lines are totally off. Should have measured those, but that's okay. All right,